Alright, welcome back to the channel. Nate Taylor here with FullTimeFilmmaker.com, and in this video we will be going behind the scenes to show you how we created this commercial using the new camera from FreeFly, the FreeFly Wave. Now we also used the Canon R5 to capture high quality 8K video so that we could rotoscope the images in post to be able to manipulate them like you saw in the video. We also utilized the 4K 120 frames per second to capture this shot here. So if you guys want to learn how to capture shots like this and rotoscope in post, make sure to check out the link below. But before we got started, I wanted to give a quick thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. All of the titles, motion graphics, and effects used in the commercial and this video were all from Storyblocks. Honestly, these guys are a one-stop shop for everything in content creation. They have over 1 million royalty-free assets. I'm talking videos, songs, sound effects, VFX, and even photos. They have super affordable subscription plans, so it's possible for everyone to get access to the largest unlimited demand-driven library of digital assets out there. It's all royalty-free and full of diverse content. The people over there at Storyblocks know time is money, so they made it super easy for content creators like you and me. So if you guys want to up the production value of your videos, go to storyblocks.com/Parker. But thanks again to Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. Let's get into the BTS. So we start off the sequence with a couple of dramatic slow motion shots. These were captured at 4K 422 frames per second, which is the highest the Wave camera can go in 4K. We did capture a couple shots at 1500 frames per second, but we'll talk about those in a little bit. To get this shot, we grabbed our 40-gallon fish tank and cut out a portion of our background. For each speaker, we picked a background that was similar to the accent color on the plus and minus button, so to create some color contrast. We then secured that backdrop to the back of the fish tank with some duct tape. This will ensure that that background color is nicely lit and doesn't have any harsh shadows. Now, what's different about this setup from when we did the Simply Orange commercial is that we had that black backdrop far away from the subject because we didn't want any light spilling onto the backdrop. To prep the speakers, we took duct tape and some fishing line and taped it to the bottom of the speaker to some glide cam weights and let it float there in the water. Now we had to be careful or the speaker would come off and we would have to wait for it to dry before retaping it again. We then took a couple 18-gauge syringes and filled them up with acrylic ink. I'm using acrylic ink because it's hydrophobic, which means it doesn't blend with water, so when it enters water, it creates a nice big cloud. But this stuff is thick, so that's why we went with the big needles. The biggest challenge when working with a Wave camera is you have to have a ridiculous amount of light to get a clean image. If you don't have enough light, you'll get artifacts in your shot like you can see in this example, where you can see this grid appearing in the shadows. Slow-mo cameras in general don't have a great dynamic range, so you have to have a perfectly exposed image before you shoot it. To prevent this, we had light coming in from every angle to make sure the subject was completely surrounded and didn't have any dark spots. So we have the 300D Mark II starting off here at the right at a 45-degree angle with the softbox by Aperture. At top, we have the Amaran 200D with the Godox strip softbox, giving a nice top-down light. On the left side, we have the RE Sun. We have 2 layers of diffusion. These are again the FTF diffusers. If you guys haven't seen, these are awesome products. We do have a video here on the channel where we did an entire commercial just working with these and natural light. If you guys haven't seen that, make sure to check the link up here. But these are an awesome tool to pick up for under $100. So we're using 2 of these to diffuse the light coming from the M18. Here we have the Nova P300C, again at a 45-degree angle coming in from the left side of the frame. We have a Tokina 100mm macro lens. This is the cine version, so I can control the aperture and the focus quite easily. It's kind of hard with a normal EF lens. I did have to get an adapter to use this lens, so I could have used Sony lenses, but I really like the way that this Tokina 100mm macro looks. And then we're putting the Atomos Ninja Inferno here on top. Now when working with a typical DSLR, you sometimes don't really need a histogram, but when working with a monster camera like this, you do need a histogram to be able to see the image clearly. If you guys don't quite understand histograms or how to read them, we do talk about that in Full-Time Filmmaker, so if you want to learn more about properly exposing an image, make sure to click that link down below. We're going to get that ink ready to spray in here. We mix the blue, the green to get that turquoise. We're going to go ahead and inject it in there, trying not to move the speaker too much because if it does, the speed ramp will look a little bit shaky. But let's go ahead and get the shot at 4K 422 frames per second and see how it looks. This next return, let's do it in 3, 2, go. did this for each speaker, so after each shot we had to dump out the water, clean the tank, and refill it for each speaker. So it was time consuming, but having help and a hose made it go a lot quicker. Little pro tip, get all the shots that use the same lighting done so you don't waste time breaking down the set for each shot.
3, 2, 1, hit it. All right, so kind of a big bummer. We actually got a killer shot of the black speaker in the water, but the problem was we put the white side on the side of the sun, and when the light reflected and hit that, we totally lost information over there. This doesn't handle HDR content very well, so maybe this is a job for the EOS R5. Maybe we'll just move on to the other speaker, save this for last, because maybe we won't even do the black one, who knows. We got the blue backdrop back here. We are going to do blue ink. So again, it's a little bit lighter, so I'll have to be careful of my exposure. We have our syringes loaded with 2 blue, 1 white syringe. We're probably gonna do basically the same thing we just did with the gray, where we can just get that fully engulfed in a big cloud. 3, 2, 1, action.
The last 2 shots that were taken on the wave camera was the top-down splash shot and the horizontal sinking in the water shot. Both of these were taken at 1440 FPS at 2K. For the horizontal shot, we used the same lighting set as the ink shots, but changed the camera angle slightly.
I have the camera pointed up, and that's because I want to be able to get just the undersurface of the water, and because I want to be able to get that speaker right when it comes into the water. Little hack, we're putting a little piece of tape right here, so T-Hand knows where center is, so that when we have to redo the shot, he can drop it right there.
Now, as you can see at full speed, the speaker fell way too fast, and that's because it's very heavy. This is why we want a high frame rate so that we can slow it down in post. When editing this clip, I added a slight zoom in and a Y keyframe to follow the speaker down. If you're not familiar with how to do this in post, there will also be a full editing breakdown of this video in the Full-Time Filmmaker course. The problem with the slight digital zoom was at 2K resolution, the wave camera produces a very soft image. So I made up for it by using some fun text overlay to cover that up, and this is what we got. Lastly, for the top-down splash shot, we took the light blue backdrop and placed it below the fish tank. We did this to keep the background colors the same between both clips. We then filled the fish tank halfway up so it was enough to completely engulf the speaker in a big splash. This shot was probably the most difficult to capture because in order to get the speaker completely in focus while it was falling, we had to have an aperture of 5.6 or higher. So we placed all of the lighting as close as we could to the tank to make sure that there was enough light to avoid artifacts, shooting at 1500 frames per second. The second most difficult part to this shot was getting the speaker to land level when it entered the water. This shot alone took us 4 hours to set up and keep dropping the speaker to get the shot perfect. We ended up breaking the speaker doing this so many times. And then in post, I added a slight push in and speed ramp to transition from this clip to the next seamlessly. But that finishes up the job shadow portion of the video. Again, if you want to check out the full virtual job shadow, as this was just a condensed version because we covered a ton of things on set that was just not included in this video. Make your way over to fulltimefilmmaker.com and join our community of over 15,000 full-time filmmaker students. But that's it for today's video. If you haven't already, make your way down, hit that subscribe and like button, and if you have any further questions for me, please let me know.